got a rhythm. Oh.
Hi, my name is Laura Keller. I'm the Managing Director of Advocacy for the ADA and oversee our National Grassroots Advocacy Program. I'm here today with Elise Tolson, our Federal Affairs Vice President. Elise and I are here to talk to you a little bit about affordable insulin and our federal activities, particularly around the Insulin Act right now. So, Elise, a lot of people don't know that there's a diabetes caucus in Congress. Can you share a little bit about that and how the Bipartisan Insulin Act came about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we have more than 37 million Americans living with diabetes in the United States right now. So this is an issue we're happy that Congress has made a priority. So not surprisingly, just given the number of Americans living with diabetes in the country, the Diabetes Caucus in Congress is the largest caucus in Congress. So it's, bipartisan, hundreds of members, lots of members really engaged on this issue. And we're grateful for that. So back in 2019, insulin obviously has been a priority for the Diabetes Caucus for a long, long time. Back in 2019, the co-chairs of the caucus introduced the Insulin Price Reduction Act, really getting to some of the root causes of some of these price increases we've seen, especially over the past couple of decades. And that has sort of morphed into what we see today, which is the Insulin Act that was introduced by Senators Jeanne Shaheen and Susan Collins last week. And it really gets to the root of some of these problems, some of these cost drivers that have made insulin so unaffordable and out of reach for so many Americans.
Absolutely. And, we've passed a lot of insulin copay caps on the state level, but the federal level, if we can pass the Insulin Act, it has the ability to help a lot more people. So who could be helped by this bill?
Absolutely. So we still do have, there is a $35 monthly copay cap for certain types of insulins that's included in this legislation. So that helps everyone with commercial insurance, from, insurance you get through your employer, if you're on Medicare, if you're on Medicaid. The benefit of this bill too is that, as I mentioned, it gets some of the root, we call them rebates, that, this system that drug manufacturers are working with insurance companies, and there's sort of this system it's pretty opaque, and it really inflates the cost of insulin artificially. So we really want to, scrap that system, get to some of these root causes of the cost drivers. And this bill does that, which we're really excited about. So in the benefit of reducing the list price of insulin. So if you're an insured individual, your insurance company will cover, a certain amount depending on what kind of insurance you have. And you get the benefit of that $35 a month copay cap, depending on, what kind of insulin you're using. The other, these getting at the cost drivers of this rebate system, that helps, reduce list prices overall. So if you're uninsured, this benefits you too.
Yeah. So as a person with type 1 diabetes myself, if I didn't have insurance, I could go and I potentially could have a lower cost insurance when I go to my pharmacy to fill it up, even without insurance. So that's actually pretty exciting and has the potential to help tons of people with diabetes. So having been an advocate and wondering why that's important, why does Congress need to hear from people with diabetes in support of the Insulin Act right now?
Sure. So this, as all of you, I'm sure, are aware, Congress has a lot going on at any given point in time. It's an election year. It's a busy time in Washington. So they need to hear from people who live in their states, who live in their districts, and they want to know, depending on, things that they're going to prioritize, bills they may introduce, bills that they're thinking about. Should I support this? Should I co-sponsor this? They want to know what their constituents' priorities are. So it's hugely important that our advocates are reaching out, especially, this bill has just been introduced in the Senate so far. We're very hopeful that there will be a companion bill that's introduced and will also be bipartisan in the House as well. But right now we're really hopeful. We've had, tens of thousands of advocates reaching out on this insulin issue to their members of Congress. And right now, it's hugely important to reach out to your senators.
Yeah. So as Elise was saying, we've had over 58,000 diabetes advocates reach out to Congress through our engagement platform at the ADA about this issue. So I've heard from people, they wonder, do they even read the emails that they get? Do the senators and the congressional members really pay attention to what's in those emails that they get?
So two things that I think, our advocates have been really successful at so far. One is numbers. If offices are getting, we're sending 50,000 something emails to Capitol Hill, members are going to notice. So we need all of you to, keep emailing your members of Congress, your senators, Because yeah, just the sheer volume of outreach that we're seeing from folks on this issue who really care deeply about, personally their cost of insulin. We're seeing, 1 in 4 people have reported rationing their insulin, just given the cost of insulin and the cost of other things that they need to buy right now. And that was a pre-pandemic figure. So we're seeing that that's grown even worse during COVID. So hugely important that these people keep reaching out. The sheer volume of the emails that Congress is getting right now you can't ignore it. So that's something that's really important. And then we always talk to you about, your personal story. If you have had personal experience where you've had to ration your insulin, or you've changed insurance and your insulin is no longer covered, your insulin out-of-pocket costs have grown monthly. These are things that members of Congress really pay attention to as well. This is an issue that affects millions and millions of Americans. About 1 in 3 people with diabetes are insulin dependent. So again, that coupling that volume of emails with making sure you're including your personal story so that your representatives in Washington know what's going on and that this touches millions of people very personally and financially. I think both of those things are things that we have going for us, and certainly appreciate our advocates continuing to reach out.
Absolutely. Well, and I think, when you share your personal story, I've heard, and you can tell me if this is true, that sometimes they actually bring those things up when they're in a hearing or there's a debate on a bill and a potential vote. They bring up stories from their constituents.
Totally. Yeah, this is something that, members of Congress are, they're always looking for, and to convince their colleagues as well. We can give you all the facts and figures on how much insulin has increased over the past 2 decades, how many people have diabetes. We've got all the data available to us, but there's something really meaningful, I think. If I'm the senator from Illinois and I hear from a constituent in, the town near where I grew up who can't afford their insulin, has really been struggling during and post-pandemic, that's something that's going to kind of pull at my heartstrings a little bit and make me think twice about, this isn't just an issue that's, I hear the facts and figures all the time, but really hearing how this personally affects people who are, living or dying based on whether or not they can have access to this medication. I think it's really compelling for people who are in Washington right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It tells telling the story, and it puts that connection that you were saying. Let's see if we have any good questions that we can answer. All right. So here's a question. People want to understand, is it okay to share a family story, or does it have to be your personal? Could it be your neighbor's story that you're sharing? Something like that.
Yeah, I think, if you've got personal experience generally, I never share, too personally identifiable information or anything via member of Congress websites. But yeah, I think just anecdotally, it helps to share those stories and things that folks are hearing on the ground, especially, again, if your neighbor or your family, your sister or your friend lives in the same state. So it's, and I would encourage, those folks to reach out as well. If you've got family members who are also impacted by the rising cost of insulin, have them, we've got, after Laura and I wrap up here, we'll post all the resources we can available to you on our, social media and our website, so that you're able to very easily, reach out personally to your member of Congress. We'll let you know, if you're not aware yourself, we'll let you know who represents you, so you don't have to do any of that research on your own. Which means you can just share this link widely with your family, with other friends who may have diabetes or who have loved ones who have diabetes, who also want to talk to their members of Congress.
Absolutely. Yeah. Diabetes advocates are really kind of the superheroes right now, and will help us get this across the line to impact people like myself who have type 1 diabetes, and I need insulin in my insulin pump. So it's a really important time. I want to thank you, Elise, for joining me today to talk about the Insulin Act and the importance of engagement and why it matters. And then I'd also like to thank everyone who's already taken action. And if you haven't, please raise your voice in support of the Insulin Act today. Go to our engagement page at diabetes.org and take action to help make insulin affordable. You have power. Your voice matters. And we need you to join us in these efforts to hopefully have a historic insulin bill passed that helps many people.
Thank you, Laura. And thanks everybody for joining us today.
Yes, thank you.